Position battles heating up even more so after one game. A major change in the way the Jazz play in transition to offense. Plus, we'll look around at some of the big news in the NBA, one that may impact the Western Conference playoffs extensively, and the Vegas odds, while Utah comes out really, really badly. It's all next on today's edition of Tip Off. Boom, 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 boom. Giants live for another day. Boom, boom. Extra innings couldn't be more exciting. Boom, 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 boom. And nobody in the country is watching baseball at all. Boom, 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 boom. 1.7 rating. I think the WNBA is close to that. How are you? The new HD cam looks pretty good. Looks so good, I'm actually going to have to go buy another one of these and put it on the laptop for the road. Hope you're well. The baseball ratings have been terrible. That whole little stupid one-game wild card thing didn't work. Giants and A's both lived last night. 3 games tonight with nothing else going on. I mean, I know nobody really cares so much about baseball, but I think this is interesting just from a sports standpoint of what is the following of this sport. I played college baseball, huge fan, drove across country, saw a game in every stadium in 1990, and I don't watch anymore. Part of it's I'm the NBA, part of it's I'm in Utah. I haven't watched a single game other than Giants. There's a huge star that plays for Baltimore that Kevin Ferguson was telling me about the other day. I didn't know who he was. I know who Trout is. I know who Bryce Harper is, and I didn't know who this kid is. And I think that's just crazy. But I'm not engaged in the game right now, and my kids have quit. Everyone plays lacrosse in Utah instead of baseball. I'm sure everywhere else there's a lot of stuff going on. But it just, I don't know. To me, it feels very localized that if your team's, it's almost like it's become the NHL, that if your team's playing, you simply just watch it there. Again, thanks you guys for all the support. We had obviously last week was enormous. We hit 31st on the Stitcher Radio, highest listening sports podcasts, and if you kind of look through that list, just a huge amount of MMA, huge amount of wrestling, which have no other outlet, a lot of fantasy football. But like we were right next to Mike Fiore's Pro Football Talk, which is pretty cool. So, and we were probably the number 2 local show behind Dan Le Batard's show out of Miami. So thank you. We'll continue hopefully to get better. New things have been launched that you'll see for this season. Just kind of noodled it around all off season. So the new 2 things are the YouTube failed on night 1, but Ron Boone and I after every game, when he's with me, we'll do a podcast. Quickly after the game, we'll do a quick podcast and have it up for you, both video. And then I don't know how often I'll be able to do it, but I thought yesterday I launched the first of the Storyline podcast. So what are the Jazz, and the idea was what are the Jazz trying to do offensively? I felt as though in the first preseason game when the Jazz ran, it was kind of out of control, and they were getting down the floor, and I'm not a huge, I know this sounds crazy, but I'm not a huge fast break believer. I feel like it gets really willy-nilly. You get your floor out of balance, and the other guys go score. I remember when Mark Jackson took the job with the Warriors, and he said, we're going to be fast and we're going to play great defense. And I did this research. I was like, okay, well, that doesn't happen. Like, actually, Jerry Sloan's Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer team was one of the few teams who was ever in the top 5 or 6, 7 in pace and in the top 10 defensively. It just doesn't happen. If you're in the top 10 pace, you usually are a terrible defensive team, and there are a few exceptions, but there's something to be said about a half-court set where you have the floor balance, guys get back in the right spot defensively, and you keep them in a half-court set. To some extent, every time you fast break, you give them one the other way. And so I thought the Jazz were just too much on the fast break side in the first preseason game, and that there was this moment in a lot of possessions where they were forcing the fast break, which I like. I mean, probe it. And what a lot of coaches call is either score early or score late. And the Jazz were looking to score early, and then when it wasn't there was no pullback. There was no getting into the secondary offense. So I talked to Ty about it. He talked about what he wants. He does seem to be more fast break centric than I am in that conversation. The way I'm phrasing what I personally like about the NBA, he seems to be more go, get that early fast break. And if you can get easy baskets before someone sets up defensively, that's enormous, particularly when you're playing good teams. When the Lakers and the Thunder and the Heat and get set defensively this year, it's going to be a total pain to try to score on them. So I understand where Ty's coming from, and he may be right. But what I really was hoping to see, and I'd seen them work on in practice, and I was hoping to see was this idea that you come down you probe maybe for that for a second, but people get in their positions and then you run the early power set. So, Mo Williams brings it up, gets it out to the wing, Favors comes over, sets the pick. Mo's coming off a pick and roll. Now you're distributing out to Foy, who's on a three on one side, or Hayward, or Marvin, or whoever it is, and you're getting some quick early good looks. Um, that's what I was thinking I was going to see, and I didn't see that in much of any way. So what I did yesterday is I talked to Ty, Mo, and Jamal about the concept, put it together in a podcast, and it's what I'm calling a storyline podcast. One storyline, I talk to the guys, and rather than the reporters, the way they do it, and this is what they're supposed to do, there's nothing wrong with it, taking the most important snippets, and maybe what they do is better, you're going to get the whole package and you get to hear it for yourself. It's about 7 minutes long. And I'll try to keep those things going throughout the year. Hopefully you like those. But you guys have got to continue to give me feedback, even if you think something sucks. The drum roll people have given me feedback that they think it sucks, but somehow it seems to have taken a life of its own, that it's sticking around for a little bit. So please do. Please continue. That can be at dlock@utahjazz.com. That can be on our vent line. I've got a bunch of those tomorrow I'm going to bring up. Remember the comment vent line if you want to talk about things you're seeing about the team, or, you could have commented after Taysom Hill got hurt. You could have commented after, but throughout the Jazz season, really. So feel free. 801 200 3738. 801 200 3738. Put that in under vent line on your phone. 801 200 3738, and I'll be pulling some of those comments. I've gotten some of them recently. I'll pull some, hopefully for tomorrow's show. So in that transition, Ty made a really interesting comment. He said, we were running to get to where we're supposed to, but we weren't running there to make plays, and that's pretty common for a first preseason game, that you just know where you're supposed to be, but it hasn't quite gotten into your head how you're going to get there and what you're going to do with it. Mo Williams talked about that he wants either layup or corner three early. So he's really looking for that corner three in early transition. That would be brand new for Utah, because the Jazz have definitely not been a lover of the corner three. There's some belief that when you miss, it goes the other way for a first fast break. And then Jamal talked about it very differently. Jamal talked about making sure he doesn't put the ball in the hands of guys who are in a position to make a mistake. So you'll get their different perspectives if you hear that. The thing that was obvious and that's different about this roster is there was a lot of what I call rebound and go. And I'm a huge fan of rebound and go. I think if you're going to be a transition team and an early offense team, that's a great way to do it. Now, you'd like to get the ball into Mo's hands every time, but Gordon's able to rebound and go. Burks is able to rebound and go. Marvin's able to rebound and go. So you saw a lot of guys grab the rebound, and they took off themselves. And if you can space the floor out of that and actually rebound, get the first dribbles, and either you keep going or then you make your pass, I feel like that's a fast break team, rather than grab the rebound, look around for my outlet pass. Mo's got to get open. Now, that time that it takes right there is the time that slows you down and is the difference between being a fast break team. One thing nobody realizes is being a fast break team is really hard. You got to really run, really play, and I'm not, you've got to be really disciplined. And as Bob Hill, former Spurs and Sonics head coach, used to say to me, no one practices the fast break. Every coach just assumes you can run the fast break and you just do it right. It's no different than any other offense. You've got to practice it. You got to institute. You got to run your lanes. You got to figure out how you're going to run it. He was big that my bigs, Hill believed the bigs just ran straight to the rim. And he actually taped up the floor with 5 lanes. So there were the 2 outside shooting lanes, there was the 2 middle lanes, and so he wanted the ball. If the middle lane, the big is running straight down the middle of the floor on that lane, he wanted the ball on one of the 2 what I would call lanes 2 or lane 1 being the big guy, call it lane 2 and 3. On either side of him, and then outside lanes 4 and 5. So and opposite of probably the position, but you understand what I'm saying, that those are the shooters on the outside that are going to run down the outside. So he had Ray Allen and Richard running down the outside and catching the threes. He'd have his big man running the middle, and he wanted the point guard running one side or the other. Then if the big's not there, he can circle back up if he's ahead of the ball, run a quick pick and roll off that, and everyone stays in their lanes, floor spaced, boom. And that was that's the concept of what he really believed in how you ran the fast break. So it'll be interesting to watch that. The other thing that's interesting out of night 1 for the Jazz, and we're going to over-evaluate night 1 until we get night 2 on Friday, is how the two the the rotations and the depth of the team and the battle for minutes got even crazier. I mean, this team, in some sense, has too many players, whatever that might mean, because we don't have it clearly defined on who's getting the minutes. But excuse me, if you look at the minutes on this team right now, Damari Carroll was really not a rotation guy. There's been times where I'm not sure I thought Jamal Tinsley was a rotation guy, and there have been times where I thought Cantor would just be very limited. The three guys that played the best, arguably, were Jamal Tinsley, Damari Carroll, and Enes Cantor. And so Cantor suddenly made a little claim, hey, I put up a double-double. I might be ready for more than my 12 minutes a night. Where are those coming from? Damari Carroll hits 4 jump shots. He might be saying, hey, with my defensive prowess, I'm ready to be the backup small forward on this roster and play the minutes behind Marvin. Where are those coming from? Because where are they coming from? I don't know where they're coming from, because I thought Millsap might have been sliding into some of those, and I thought Hayward might be sliding into those to open the door for Foy and Burks. And Jamal Tinsley suddenly like, hey, I run this team about as well as anyone. Don't forget my value. And thus Burks and Foy aren't getting any time over there at the one. So the position battles almost have gotten even more intense than they were earlier. All right, few notes around the NBA today. Dirk Nowitzki's knee is causing him problems in Dallas, which is really worrisome. Dirk is at that minute number. For those who have listened to the Locked On Jazz podcast or followed me on any of the various shows that I have done at some point in time, I'm a huge believer that an NBA player begins to waver at what I would call 35 minutes or 35,000 minutes. He then falls off the map at 40,000 minutes. And once you're at 40,000 minutes, you're not a guy that can carry a team anymore. And I think Dirk's getting eerily close to being a guy that might be able to not carry a team. And the essence to me of Dallas, all their balance is nice and all the other stuff they've done, but what separates Dallas is that they have Dirk. Dirk's hit 38,314 minutes in his career. He is getting awfully close to being a guy that might not be able to carry it. I thought he had one more year, but that knee's swelling up. They might have to do a little. He sounds like there's a possibility of surgery. Couldn't go. Sat out. We'll keep an eye on that one. Anthony Davis makes his debut last night. 22 points, 9 rebounds, 1 assist. Austin Rivers, 13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I loved Austin Rivers in the draft. Obviously, I loved Anthony Davis. He's going to be the Rookie of the Year. He may even be an All-Star. 22, 9, and 1. That was against the Bobcats, so it was kind of playing team that might have been not as good as University of Kentucky, but just kidding. But anyway, keep an eye on him. Eric Gordon didn't go. He's having knee problems again, which is very concerning if you're them. They just signed him. They started Vasquez along with Austin Rivers and played kind of a dual point guards. I think this is going to be the rage in the NBA in the next few years. Because the point guard is becoming such a scoring one, like a Westbrook, like a Rose. Guys like Austin Rivers are coming out that are semi-point guards. These combo guards. I think you're going to see Alec Burks. You're going to see 2 combo guards playing the 1 and the 2 and sharing the time out there. Vasquez is he's really a passer, but he's 6'5", and he's a little bit of a combo. So he played with Rivers together, and I think it'll be interesting to see. I think there's a chance you'll see those type. I mean, this would be the equivalent of a Burks-Foy lineup, which we haven't seen yet. I hope we do at some point in the preseason, because while it's non-traditional, I think the way the league's going, it could probably work. Bulls, remember, lost so much of their bench in their first preseason game. Their bench went 1 for 21 from the field. And finally, Vegas odds are out. The Heat are 11-5. Thunder are Lakers are 5-2. Thunder are 9-2. I don't mind that Thunder bet's not terrible. Bulls are 14-1. I guess that's based on Rose coming back. Now remember, this is Vegas betting, so this is all based on who's going to put down numbers, and that's where this gets really interesting. I'll share at the end. Celtics are 18-1. So are the Spurs, and the Clippers are 23-1. If you believe Vegas, so the Clippers then become the 4th seed behind the Thunder, the Spurs, and the Lakers. That's arguably fine. They have the Grizzlies at 35-1. Excuse me, the Mavericks at 33-1. Again, this is based on how people are bet. Grizzlies are 35-1, the 6th seed. Nuggets are 66-1 as the 7th seed, and the 8th seed, according to Vegas, odds. Now, the real number is the over-unders, and I'll try to see when those come out if they're not already out. The Rockets at 75-1. There's no way the Rockets are the eighth best team in the Western Conference, except for the fact that Jeremy Lin's on that roster, and so they're getting the betting numbers. Jazz are at 100-1, also behind Minnesota. All right, that wraps up today's edition of Tip Off. I had some other things, but it's 7:07, and I get the kids at 7:05, so I'm behind. Have a good one. Hope you're enjoying the HD camp. Thanks again, you guys, for your support. So exciting to see this come together. I believe this is our first full NBA season. You guys, we have kind of built this groundwork going into this. It'll be great. Drop me your lines at 801-200-3738 for the Locke Vent line. Talk to you soon.